Good morning, everyone. It is Texas Homer here with Joe Cook, with Coach Dub. Eric is out today dealing with some personal stuff. He will be back next week, but for this week, we got this gang of football analysts with us. First things first, y'all. Please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We want to get to that 10,000 mark. I wish we could get to the $10,000 mark too. Use promo code IT1 to get 2 months for only $1. Hell of a deal, fellas. On today's show, we're going to talk good, bad, and ugly from Mississippi State. I know you guys are going to have some interesting comments on it. And then Texas drops to number 2 in the AP poll. Devastating blow. I could barely sleep last night when the polls came out, but I'm getting back on track. Then we're going to talk by OU weeks. Then, of course, chat questions, hanging out with all you guys. Ask anything you want, and we will get to it. All right, Roaster, Hook'em, good morning. All right, good, bad, and ugly. We'll keep it structured. Start with the good. And then you guys can disagree, add in whatever you want with my good. So the first good I have is Arch Manning. I think you guys would agree.
Yeah. I think it's always nice to see a step up, how he handles a step up in competition. For what the Mississippi State defense is, it's better than the ULM one, and still made a lot of great passes at all 3 levels, not just the deepest one.
Yeah. PFF had him number one graded quarterback.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that's something I said I wanted to see from him. Take the check downs and to see the intermediate passes, and he was able to do that, man. And the great thing was the slot fade to DeAndre Moore, and he stood in the pocket, took a hit, and delivered a dime, man. Hey, man, that was a thing of beauty. So I loved it. And then he also got to use his legs and score and run over a defender. Hey, man.
And he scored, by the way.
Yeah, he did score.
And he scored again. They still didn't get it again. And then he scored again.
Yeah.
But yeah, he decided to go corner pylon. He said, "I've seen that Vince Young play." And that was yeah, and there's also a difference, man. Being 6'4", he's like, I'll take Stone Blanton to the ribs there. And I didn't realize he was so intense too. Like when he scores, he gets fired up. I just saw the khakis and polos and assumed it was much more of a kind of a chill vibe. But no, man, he's like his uncles. He has that kind of quiet edge to him.
He's got that edge that – remember the Saturday Night Live skit where Peyton's just nailing kids, like competitive and everything?
Yeah.
But then again, like he's also just as goofy. Like I think we're able to see that a little bit in the press settings. And, you know, the only time we've really been able to talk to him is 5-10 minutes after games. But you can tell there's that goofiness there. And we've almost like put him on a pedestal. And we haven't really – that pedestal is kind of hidden his personality somewhat. There's a lot of good personality there that it's going to be fun to watch in the coming years.
And his celebrations with his teammates, man, he cracks me up. He's doing like the wide receiver stuff. He just slime, like all this cracks me up, dude. And it shows that connection. You know, also I think his personality has came out. So is Quinn on that sidelines, you know, with the chains and the ice. Like you've really seen Quinn, especially was it UTSA or ULM where he's like leading the troops on the sidelines. I think we've seen Quinn also really come out of his shell as a leader. And even on the sidelines when they cut to him, kind of rooting for Arch, he's like super engaged. I think both of our quarterbacks' leadership has kind of gone through the roof, and you can tell that not even the corny way, but like they like playing with these guys, you know?
Yeah.
Every report ever is always the team's behind the quarterback, but I think actually in this one it is. So I thought Arch was awesome in the 80s for completion. Coach, what you said about intermediate passing,
man,
we wanted to see, that was huge. I thought that was absolutely awesome. Quick thing, Brett Nelson, thank you for the chat. Any concern with the lack of dominant running game? That will be a part of the good, bad, and ugly. We will hit that very shortly. Sugar Daddy, it's hate week. Where's Ian? Oh, you suck.
It's not hate week yet.
Yeah.
No, we get 2 weeks. I allow it.
Yeah.
I permit it.
Yeah.
I permit it. Take the 2. Both of us having buys is also incredible. But we'll talk OU. But for content, Joe, it is absolutely 2 weeks of OU hate week. Ian is not on the Monday show. Ian is on the Wednesday show, and I think he'll be on tonight, right?
Should be.
So you'll see Ian tonight, Sugar Daddy. Don't you fret. And if not, you will for sure see him Wednesday morning with me. All right. Another good. Wide receivers. What'd you guys think?
I was happy to see DeAndre Moore. Like, he does a lot of dirty work, but to see him like have a breakout game over 100 yards and get a touchdown, should have been 2 touchdowns, but I was so excited to see that because at any given moment, any receiver can have a great day and just go off. Like, you got to pick your poison. You never know who it's going to be. Isaiah Bunn's been consistent, right? He got a reverse and he gets the screen passes, but man, you really never know who's going to have the day, right? And I love that because you can't just key on one guy. So I thought the receivers did a great job. And Ryan Wingo coming back after kind of getting dinged up, showing how tough he is. Like, hey, this is a dangerous team, man. Dangerous receivers with dangerous weapons.
One of the things that I think we can hear Sark talk about, like, 6 deep, and we can see all the different guys play, all the guys who have scored touchdowns this year. That's evidence right there. But I think further evidence that Sark really understands he's got a great receiving core is granted they're end arounds, but he's running the ball with them. Like the Wingo play at Michigan, the Isaiah Bond play this past week. Like, I don't remember seeing that a whole lot, maybe outside of with like Worthy once or twice a year.
Yeah.
And now we've seen 2 different receivers get opportunities to, granted, putting the ball in their hands, but running the ball with them. And I think that speaks to, okay, we've got something here to where we got to utilize these guys in more creative ways. And they've done it successfully and explosively a couple times.
Yeah, we need to generate those explosive runs, and we're not able to do that generally with our backs. So let's give it to those super fast guys. UT boy, I bet you had a rough moment of the game. We thought about you.
He recovered though. I like that at the throw and catch. Really good throw. Not the easiest catch, but one he's got to make on the second opportunity. He bounced back.
And look, man, it happens. Wide receivers drop the ball sometimes. And honestly, those wide open touchdown types, that's psychologically probably the toughest. And I like Jonte. He kind of head to hands, but then he looked up. I always watch receivers' body language after that happens. And I thought Jonte showed he was smiling, laughing. He's like, man, I blew that, but next play. And that's important.
Mm-hmm. Granted, it's always reactionary. It's like, oh, he's laughing. He must not care. It's like, I've never believed that. Now, if it's about like 10 minutes later or you're down 20 and you're on the bench, like laughing, granted, it's just the camera zooming in on you one time at one moment. You could have been like sobbing in the corner right after it happened. And then they catch you 5 minutes later and you're laughing. Like, people react to things in different ways. So I didn't really mind him like laughing. It's like, oh man, I should have had
that. That's what it wasn't like a haha, the team has lost a touchdown. It was one of those like, damn, where you're just kind of laughing like that. It wasn't like that. And so that I paid attention to him, and he's gonna be all right, man. It happens, man. It sucks. But remember Worthy in Washington, it happens, man. And he wants to make that play. Jonte's a baller.
Right.
$5. When you're born in Oklahoma, are you automatically pre-approved for a trailer? Oh, you suck. I would think no, just because I was watching what's the Twisters 2? That was trailer's not a good idea in that part of the country, man. That was a documentary, correct? So that was they had twin tornadoes and everything. It was a moving documentary. But thank you, Sugar Daddy. All right, another good young backs late in the game. I thought they stepped up, and what y'all think about old Trey?
Man, I love Trey. He just runs through people, man. You wouldn't see it looking at his body type, his body size. You wouldn't think he can run through tackles like that, but he runs hard, man. He runs extremely hard. The first guy rarely ever brings him down. And being able to kind of just lean on a run game late in the game, it's like, all right, let's go finish this thing and let him get in there and finish it. I thought that was great. It was good to see. Because now you can depend on him more going through the season, in more games. Like, okay, if we need to run the ball and give this guy maybe 20 carries, I feel like he can do it. Right. And you can get the ball in multiple ways too. You can throw the ball to him, but running between the tackles, running outside the tackles, like, okay, this is a guy we can depend on. You still got baby Rhino back there who can run through people and soften people up because he runs so hard. And so it was good to see.
I think his like jump cuts are so entertaining to watch just because he like kind of jump cuts 4 yards ahead and then finds the hole. Like that's a sign of like patience and vision. he held on to the ball, and that was the important part at the very end. He's easily one. I can see why he's a fan favorite, not only because, when you think of fan dynamics and like, oh, this guy's doing bad and the guy who replaced him is doing better, and oh, so this guy's doing, like, I get that, but like, you watch him in high school be unselfish at DeSoto. You watch him last year get his opportunity at the end, but make so many different plays on special teams, popping guys at Baylor. The guy just plays football hard. And now he's getting the chance to do it with the ball in his hands, and still more of the same.
Yeah, the special teams heart wins people over. And then also, I like anybody who's the quote-unquote number 2 back in their class, and they're like, all right, I'm going to play hard, and I'm going to show you guys. That's what I appreciate. So, yeah, he's psychologically, the fans are going to like him, and he's down to run. And we'll talk a little bit more about the fumbling issues and the bad and the ugly portion. Another good, fans are going to like this. I thought Colin Simmons. Now, there's some nuance here, right? In the run game, there's a little bit of nuance there. But as far as Texas hasn't had a pass rusher kind of flash like that in a while, that's the part. So, Texas got one in the pass rush. So that's going to be awesome. What do you guys think?
That sack was special. Like, I thought he was offsides, and I kind of watched it again, and maybe they could have, but at the same time, that just speaks to the jump, the anticipation, and that's some uncommon stuff at that age. And I think he also, Colin's always been very smart and confident, and just someone who kind of understands his superstar ability. I think aside from, the aspect of his brother being in his family, being in Duncanville and wanting to stay close to them in recruitment, I think he understood also that, hey, if I stay within the region, my star is going to shine a lot brighter. But he's also really damn good at football and rushing the passer and that type of thing. So like, there's still more to work on with him, as we'll get to, but man, there's something about defensive linemen and edge players wearing number 11 and being used in multiple ways in Texas, isn't there?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. To see him at a young age be able to work half a man of the offensive lineman, like, most people don't understand. They rush right down the middle of the offensive line, but he already understands his leverage, and he just came ready. He kind of reminds me of in a state game. He kind of took over versus North Shore. Like, late the game, he's like, I'm getting after the quarterback. Nobody can stop me. And that's like transition to college against grown men. And some of these offensive linemen don't even stand a chance versus him, man. Like you said, I thought he was offsides at first too, but it's like, man, he's just so quick. And he has a chance to just like take over a game at the college level. It's so amazing. Like, you can get somebody 3 and out quick, or he create a strip sack, and it's like, you create more opportunities for the offense, man. To do that at such a young age, it's special. But I mean, I know we'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's kind of high risk. Sometimes high reward with him, because maybe he gets out of rush lane. I'm gonna go inside, and then you give up the edge, but comes right back and makes 2 exceptional plays. It's like, all right, I'm gonna let him do him. All right, he's creating havoc. I'm gonna let him do him. It's okay.
Yeah, and we can talk about the flip side of Simmons. So, elite in the pass rush, and also like edge and tackles are the most like close to martial arts for me, because your hand placement has to be awesome. Like, there's so much skill in those positions that people don't realize. These are not just big guys hitting each other. And Colin Simmons were timing his hands perfectly. I mean, all of that stuff for a young guy, doing that against a tackle, SEC tackle, that's impressive. So some of the downsides, right? So he's not strong enough yet to fully post up tackles in the run game. So he does this almost kind of like fighting in a phone booth. He's kind of jumping around in front of them, and if the back goes either way, he's going to leap to that side. And if he leaps to the wrong side, then the back's smart enough, he'll be able to cut out. And so the biggest, I think that was their most explosive run. That was on Simmons.
Yeah.
He got out of his gap and they washed him down. What was important, though, the next 2 plays, who made those tackles? Colin Simmons.
Colin Simmons, yeah.
So that's part of the context we also need to include. And he also was moving faster after that. So there's another gear when he gets mad at himself that's there. And so that's what I thought was impressive too. I'm like, he's not even showing everything, because once he kind of realized that was my bad, he's like, I'm going to go make these next 2 plays, and they had a field goal. So
he's not stubborn, which I think is really important. And yeah, I think he really emphasized it there. Like, he is he's not like, oh, I messed up. Oh, do it worse or do it. He tries to learn from each rep.
Yeah, and he's like, all right, I got to make the next play, opposed to just doing. Quentin, what's up, man? Horn fan living in Oklahoma. Truck got an egg last night. Yep. Stay strong, Quentin. I will not take the horn emblem off my truck. I had to go to Oklahoma City for some work thing a couple years ago, and I just wear Texas shirts all the time, so I don't even think about it. And man, I was getting looks at this gas station. I could not figure out what was going on. I was in Norman, and then I realized, oh, it's probably because I'm wearing a Texas shirt. But Simmons impressive. Do you guys have any more goods? That's the end of my good list.
Andrew Makuba is not big, like in when you have two safeties in Taft and Makuba who are right at 200, right at 190. Maybe that presents some stuff in the run game, but he's got Taft-like qualities and he throws himself around. And he's really good at coverage. I think we saw these past 2 weeks safety depth get tested. Derek Williams has been out. McDonald's been in and out. Taft, I think Sark said he had a stinger. So we've seen a lot of different guys at safety. Jordan Johnson-Rebel, Jelani McDonald, all those guys, and they've all performed pretty darn well. Now we'll see what happens. Yep. Well, I was about to say, I'm not sure if when the next time they're going to face a functional pass offense is. Probably Georgia, just because OU's is not super functional right now, and it's not their style. But all those safeties, and Makuba had his turn this past week. They've really, really performed well, almost to the level of the cornerbacks.
Yeah, and Makuba will hit dudes too and jar the ball loose, which matters. Before we hit the bad real quick, before we hop on the complaint train, first, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Thank you, LC. Sugar Daddy, do we know the snap counts? Felt like Sark was more worried about getting guys reps than running up the score.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm guessing you're looking for offense. Let's see. They had 64 plays. Arch and Kelvin were in there for 64. Bond 52. DeAndre Moore 31. Wisner's 34. Gibson 10. Golden 54. Jonte 7. Wingo 18. Hudson got 21. Juan Davis 25. Helm 64. Means Helm was on the field every play. Then Jaden Blue 20. But to that point, it's a little bit. I mean, it's the same cast of characters, but maybe not as much rotation. Because just looking at Cook and Wingo and Bolden and Niblet, those guys didn't rotate in a ton compared to what they've done in previous games. And maybe the game dynamic dictated that too.
But also, if you think about Cook, right, he was only in for 7. If he wouldn't have dropped that thing, that's a touchdown. And then if he wouldn't have got shoelace tackled, that was also a touchdown. So out of 7 plays, Cook theoretically could have scored 2 touchdowns with just slightly different. So that's incredibly impactful for having 7 plays on the field. Ever seen a more acrobatic catch and run than Ryan Williams' catch against Georgia?
No.
I thought he had a more acrobatic catch over the middle. Remember when he tapped it 3 times?
Yeah.
The run after is what truly made that insanely special.
Did you all see the I know Barstool picked it up, but others had it. It was the 2 nose tapes.
Kill everybody. And
one was Psalms 119 and the other was kill everybody.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was funny.
It's a different cat.
Yep. Hat tip Joe, thanks. No problem. All right. The bad. Run defense Test it. Now, some of this, and Ian talks about in his article, I saw him putting gifts. Anytime you see Ian with his gifts, articles coming, guys. But he was, I mean, we played a 3-2 box sometimes versus that veer and shoot. So we were doing some interesting stuff. There was some stuff like that we were like, there's no way you're going to pass up running on us here. You have to run it if you guys are going to count box. So we had a lot of too high. Now, I'm not here to just write everything off. I don't think our run defense is awesome. I just don't through 5 games. But there was a lot of stuff there where we were pretty much just like, you can run it.
They were not going to get beat over the top, which, you know, that's a choice. And y'all go check out Ian's article. It's basically that decision was not made on Saturday. It was made, you know, this time last week where they're like, look, they're going to try to run it. We believe in if we want to give up or play one-on-one matchups, we want to do it in the box and not outside. And, you know, they limited explosive plays that way, and they could churn the ball down the field, but they couldn't get it except for like one messed up quarterback draw. They couldn't get it in the red zone, much less the end zone.
Right.
Yeah, and then too, you know, Sark keyed in on Kevin Coleman. That's a good receiver. Mario Craver, also a good receiver, fast receiver as well. And then Mosley for them. Not any like he's not super fast or super tall or anything, but good all around receiver. That Mississippi State wide receiver core is legitimate. And so trying to stop them first and foremost makes sense game plan wise.
Yeah, definitely. I thought we'd try to stop the run with 5 too. I think that's the best way to kind of defend the veer and shoot. Because I don't want to be in space against a good athlete and break one tackle, then it's a house call. Like, so yeah, you can run the ball, and when we get inside the maybe 25, I'm just going to shut it down because you can't do anything else, right? So in the veer and shoot is explosive offense. Want to pass the ball downfield. In the red zone, you're not really throwing downfield. So it's like, all right, now I can kind of play more people in the box.
And the funniest part is we were like, the run defense is in shambles. And you look at this score, we've given up like 2 field goals, you know, and it's just, we're in a different tier. It's funny, man. It's
there was something, I don't know if they adjusted out of this or not, but early in the game, there would be some sort of motion that brought Trey Moore out.
Yeah.
To set up that 5-man box. And I think they realized, like, I mean, granted, you got rules, and it's like, okay, this, my man, the wide splits make that. I think they made a good adjustment to get out of that, because I didn't see that happen very often after, I think, the first couple drives.
Yeah, I saw Trey Moore at one point like have to go to the slot, and you know, and I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
you know, and so watch it closer. So now, don't get me wrong, I'm still looking at the run defense. I am, because we're playing a lot of run heavy teams this schedule, so it absolutely does matter. So I'm not trying to minimize entirely. I mean, I'm not in love with it's not the run defense of last year. I can guarantee that. But we will have to pay attention. But also, once again, Sark made the clear decision we're going to have to stop the receiving core here, opposed to the run game, and you can see that even schematically, like we said, 5-man boxes, stuff like that. Nino's corner, morning fellas, just happy we aren't rolling out that jumbo tight end package where the defense knows tight end 2 is never going out for a pass. Yeah, I'm surprised I guess they're comfortable with Juan Davis now and Helm, right? Yeah. So they don't need the Malik Agbo style. But I like that.
I think Ian has mentioned before that was kind of a counter to the flyover.
Yeah.
And I think Mississippi State ran that a couple times, but like you mentioned, there's a lot more faith in what Helm and what Juan can do, as opposed to like, all right, let's get an extra big body and just run it over. They also don't have the running backs to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, my next one. So, you know, whenever I watch the game, I'm highly emotional. I know I'm an analyst, but it doesn't matter. I'm a fan when the game's live, and I'm like, dang it, you know, like they're throwing the ball behind us. I went back and rewatched in a more chill mind frame, and I wasn't super concerned with the pass defense, but there were a couple times they got by us, which shows you that Craver is quick, shows you that Kevin Coleman is quick, and Sark and them were aware that they would be able to do that. The one that I did think where I was like not good was Manny and Mosley. He just got beat on that one on the sideline, far sideline from the press box.
Going left to right,
going towards the new edition end zone.
Yeah.
And so that was the one. And but also we don't have the all 22. You saw it. You could see the whole field. How did he get beat on that? Do you know?
I was trying to think. I forgot that one was on Manny, because the other two deep shots I feel like they tried to pick on Gavin Holmes, and I think they were more drops than plays Gavin Holmes make. And then there was that one they caught in double coverage, and I think that was on against Holmes too. So I'm trying to think on that one.
I don't care about the double coverage one. It was on Holmes in the safety, but I thought that was just a nice throw.
Yeah,
because you had them. They were the safety in the corner were converging perfectly on it. That was good coverage. It's just, hey, hat tip on that one.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but there was a couple times that teams with wide receivers that are in the coach's room right now are like, well, all right, we're going to throw a couple more of those than we thought we were.
Yeah, and I thought for the first time, guys got second chances. Like, we didn't make the tackle, the first initial tackle. Guys kind of got loose. We hadn't seen that previously in any other games where guys break a tackle and get extra yards after the catch. So maybe it's just facing better athletes on the outside too, because those guys are good. So tip the hat to them. But that's the first time I saw that.
Yeah, they were able to get a little bit more loose. And it was weird because the game was frustrating, but at no point did I feel like the game was in jeopardy.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like there's like playing really bad where they felt disengaged. They didn't feel disengaged to me. It just felt like a clunky kind of, we're going to the 9th round of this fight. It should have been a knockout in the 4th, but hey, I mean, we're still in control. It was just kind of a weird game.
I'm thinking about the Gavin Holmes aspect, and did we lose power?
No, I just had to sneeze.
Oh, I'm thinking about the Gavin Holmes aspect, and that reminded me that last year when Jeff Lebby was OU's offensive coordinator, they would take advantage of when Sweat and Murphy were not on the field in running the ball, or try to. And now Lebby, again, sees what he feels to be one of the only places that Mississippi State team can go pound for pound or toe-to-toe with Texas, and it's with their backup corner. And so it's a credit to Holmes for keeping that play maintained. But at the same time, like, there are teams that are, and everybody does this, I'm not revealing anything, like, teams are watching substitution patterns to know when they can maybe try to get one over on Texas.
Yeah, you got binocular guy in the booth, and all he's doing is when they're going to sub out.
He's charting. Trust me. Yeah, you're right.
That's how the GA gets their name in the streets, in the coaches' streets, is being good on the binoculars. This is so I'm getting into my OU prep. OU is going to try to cover down on the wide receivers. Helm should eat all day. This is actually OU's weakness. Their over aggression in the secondary. So they're like 60-something in the nation in yards per pass. So, and you saw Auburn hit them several times.
Yep.
So go ahead and cover down on our wide receivers. That's going to be Quinn's old enough now. So bring the heat, but that's why OU is going to have actually trouble is because they're hyper aggressive with their secondary, and it's actually their run defense that makes OU staunch, not their pass defense this year. Even though they have very familiar names in the secondary, that familiar names aren't doing great actually. Got to spy Hawkins, absolutely.
Here's the thing. Like, I think I sent this in a text. I don't know if y'all were in it, but you can't spy a guy every play. Like, you keep an eye on him.
Just do it on third. Just do it on third.
Yeah, like the idea of like, and I know that you're not implying this. Like, you got to pay attention to him, but like, you can't remove a guy. You can't play 10 on 10 or 10 on 11 like that every play.
Well, it forces you into man.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Exactly. But also, OU is probably going to get Anderson back, and not Farouk, Anthony might get him back. So they're actually going to have receivers. But man,
and Burks. If Burks was out this past game too.
Correct. So if you watch this game, Hawkins had to run because their receivers were locked up. Also, their concepts are boring. They run and sit down, so you don't even have to cover them. You just can follow them. But as soon as you spy Hawkins, spy him on third down, but that means, they're forcing you into man. And Hawkins not a great passer. He had that deep ball, but once they get the receivers back, they're going to try to pass more, which they
I was looking we're going to have a lot of interaction with Sooner Scoop over the next couple of weeks.
Those guys are awesome.
My buddy George, and I listened to one of their post-game podcasts one time. They have nothing at tight end. Like nothing. Like these are we've not seen pass catchers do We have not seen this weak a group of pass catchers in total at OU in a long time.
Injured pass catchers. Like, so it's like if you let everyone start, OU has a mean wide receiver room. But
Right.
yeah, their starting tight end is from southeastern Louisiana.
And he's a quarterback.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So I was scouting them heavy yesterday watching Auburn. Hawkins only completed one deep ball, and that's won it for him pretty much. But all right. You got something more?
Oh, no.
Cool. Because we're going to be milking OU for 2 weeks here. All right. Before we hit the ugly, I do want to let us hear one word from Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
Can I hit a couple in the comments real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
And this will lead into one. Do we know if Blue came out on his own to address the media? I wrote about this yesterday. I think I saw some people suggest that Blue got hurt. Maybe he got woozy from that fumble, but he had his helmet on the sidelines after that. And training staffs don't give helmets back to injured players or concussed players.
So they keep them from trying to get back.
They don't want him going back in the game. I don't know if he came out to address the media. They do kind of, as a rule, like getting guys who score touchdowns and bringing the quarterback, and Blue did score a touchdown. I bet he could have said no. But I feel like the media relations staff asked him, and he's like, yeah, okay. And, credit to him for that. Didn't have to do that. And then this one, 5th game done, whose red shirt is burned. Colin Simmons. I don't know if Kobe Black played. He probably did on special teams. Ryan Wingo, Jarrett Gibson, Ty Anthony Smith, and Michael Kern. And there are a lot more who are going to possibly burn theirs in the next couple weeks. But
that fifth star matters apparently. That 5th star gets you to burn your red shirt pretty quick.
Yeah, what do you know about that, Charlie?
Man, look.
Oh, man. We had the Rebel Minute yesterday on the day after, where we let Charlie brag on Haj Malik and the performance he had.
The Haj Mahal. I don't know, man. I was excited about that game too. I was on we were doing pregame with Landon and not Landon, but James and LC, and they're like, "Wait, what are you hitting your fist?" Hey man, I was going on like we're doing our thing.
Especially to get a win after that week, right?
They needed it bad, because
Yeah.
all the media, all the press was on them.
Yeah, that was a
But yeah.
PR nightmare. Yeah, they might have brought on themselves. I don't know the whole story. Charlie definitely knows it better than me. But if you're broadcasting, we only pay our quarterback $3,000. It's like let's not put that out either, guys. Let's act like we pay people more than
just a stipend. That's all.
Yeah, it's like that's all. It's like let's not put that out. All right. So and then the ugly, right? Blue performance, right? Fumbling twice, never going to be on the good list. So that's rough. Blue's a special talent. His speed is special. His hands are special. If he locks in and takes the lead of the guys that he got to learn from, he can do a lot, And so it's don't beat yourself up. And I thought he took accountability post game. I know last week he had 50 touchdowns. I still didn't think he played that well, which is weird. That just shows you his talent. But Sark said in the presser that Blue came up to him right after. And he's like, I didn't play very well, So but both weeks I've seen him take accountability, which is important, right? Because you kind of got the fan thing shifting. It's like, is he a diva? Is he mentally checked out? All the TMZ nonsense. I thought he took accountability twice. I think it's important. And I hope he gets back to full form, and can be a lead back, So you got to take care of the ball, man. That's simple. It's not like today Blue learned like, oh, you're not supposed to fumble. So he knows that.
Catch the football?
Yeah. So it's so he can figure it out. And then it'll keep the fans off of him too.
One thing about Blue, and I think Sark does a good job of this, but Sark's got to call things that are good for Blue. And I know you need an inside run game. Like if you're going to have an offense, maybe save that for Wisner as best as you can. And maybe save that for Gibson and, give some eye candy to maybe set up Blue's opportunities. Because I know he wants to be one and the next level want him to be one, but like running inside is just not what he's great at.
Yeah.
And he's got to improve there, obviously, but Sark can help him improve, I think, with some play calls. And he's, like I said, he's done a good job with it. But it's just something that's going to have to continue to happen, obviously.
Yeah, and I thought last year, he played with more heart. He was a little more intense. Like I liked him on third down. So I think he's a step slower this year. I don't know if it's injury or what it is. But I hopefully he can get it back on track. But someone did put a stat that they did. I think Blue has like 5 fumbles and X carries. He's averaging like a fumble every 31 carries or something like that. And that's just, can't do that. So they're going to have to work a lot of those kind of drills. He's just got to have a little bit more awareness there.
Yeah.
Because they're going to punch the ball at it every time. I mean, the word's out on him, Blanton that's all he was looking for when Blue was going down on that play. So he's got to be aware that now also you're like a game plan target where the coaches are specifically going to say to target you. So you have to be like hyper aware now that opposing coaches are going to try to do that.
Yeah. Joe, you mentioned this. Darnell Jefferson, baby. Going around all day on campus holding the football. That's what you got to do now for the whole week during the bye week.
I love that movie so much.
Blue has the most drop pass on the team too, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the stat, but like there were some lazy routes in ULM where like the ball is right there at his fingertips. If he's just given a little more effort, he can have it. And I thought it was the wrong message to give him 4 touchdowns. Like I didn't think that taught him a lesson. I think that was like he taught him that he doesn't have to try that hard and he can still get 50 touchdowns. I'd make it harder for him to score touchdowns if I was Sark to try to get him more incentivized. Right.
I think I can find the drop percentage.
Yeah, you should. PFF will show you.
Okay, here we go. Of anybody who's done anything, like Jaden Blue has a 26.7 drop rate.
That's insane.
Yeah. And looking elsewhere, like Jonte's is 11, Bonds is 9, and zeros across the board for everybody else.
Yeah, 1 out of 4. That's an astronomical drop rate. You can't have that. So you can't have that drop rate paired with that fumble rate. That'll get you benched. Just like straight up, that kind of stuff gets you benched. That's too high.
I think the point that really, really sends it home is we know how bad the running back situation is, and Blue is still benched. Like,
right.
That's how bad it was the other day.
Yeah.
But he's got time to get better.
Yeah, like we said, he has a special talent. We're rooting for him, Do your thing, protect the ball, that kind of stuff. And then my other part of the uglies, just the penalties. And that's annoyed me with the offensive line for years now, frankly. Like our weird snap infractions, like all that. That's been like a theme where I'm just I don't like our offensive line jumping all the time. And I think, here's my theory. We run too much motion. It makes lines jump. There's too much going in the backfield. The quarterback is having to time things all the time. You hear fake claps, all that kind of stuff. I think you end up with this amount of motion in your offense. I think you create penalties. I think I can't prove this, but like you're going to have 30% more penalties when you run that level of motion and shifting in the backfield because they're out of their periphery. They're seeing people move. That'll make you jump, Yeah,
it's I don't know. I guess this many years and you thought it would be maybe fixed or maybe use the bye week just doing it. Maybe it's different because he hadn't done it since the first game, right? But maybe having Arch back there now it's a different cadence, a different, I don't know, with the snap. So
I think that's a factor too. Changing quarterbacks, that's going to change the vibe, but that was just kind of frustrating.
At the same time, and I think we've talked about this before, like whether you're an air raid offense or your Texas's offense or your Michigan's offense, like you're doing a disservice to yourself if you're not using motion on offense. Like if you're not changing up looks pre-snap, like you're hamstringing yourself. You're leaving opportunities on the table. So Sark's not going to stop running motion.
Yeah, that's the reality. Yeah, that's not how it's going to work. But I do think it incentivizes with that just movement going on behind you and stuff. I think it makes guys jump. Hasn't been a problem before this. No, I think it has been a problem for a couple of years, honestly. Snap infractions, jumping like that. I'll have to look hard in the data, but the offensive line has always been kind of jumpy. Yeah, I don't know if it's because they also love their elite pass blocking unit too. So it's almost like the reason why they're so good is because their anticipatory nature, but also the background or the downside is they jump early too because they're so ready.
I wonder in college, and this is at home and on the road, they do the clap count, but you go in the pro and I think it's pretty common now. So the center can make reads. They'll have one of the guards turning and looking, waiting for the quarterback.
No,
the guard will tap. And then I think what they do is like the center does like a quick look right or look left and then back to signal like, okay, I'm about to snap. But they'll play off of that. And they'll play off the clap too. I wonder why the clap isn't possible in the pros. Like I don't see that too often. And then at the same time, I don't see silent guard tap snap counts in college. So I wonder why that is.
Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. I'll pay more attention to that. Yeah, but that's just kind of been the frustrating part because the reality is like, say we do get into that dogfight and we're in the red zone versus Georgia, we can't jump. It's like that can lose us the game, and so it's like that's what's scary about it. I don't care when we're up 30, but it's like those are going to show themselves at a crucial moment, and then everyone's going to be super mad.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think everyone had a penalty besides Banks on the offensive line this week. So
in his career, Kelvin Banks has been penalized 9 times.
Yeah.
And he's played 2,100 snaps.
That's insane. But it goes to show you, right, that there's a skill in getting these penalties too, right? You can develop how to hold your water, like it says right here.
Yeah.
And I also wonder if, like, after watching some of the Texans, like Kelvin Banks probably knows he doesn't need to get a head start.
Yeah.
In most cases. Maybe Cam Williams does. Maybe Cam knows, like, okay, I gotta time the snap perfect and react like as soon as he can to the clap.
There is a nervousness to it. There has to be. It's psychologically showing you that I gotta go. It's like it's showing you that there's some nervousness there. And Kelvin Banks is like, I don't care. You can get this step on me. I'm still gonna be able to. So maybe there is that psychological nature. All right, so we only did 45 minutes on Good, Bad, and Ugly. Good job, guys. But
okay, I have something, and Coach, I bet as someone who's been in a program, you can see this. Texas isn't as good on special teams as they were last year.
We're not.
And I know there's a downgrade from Worthy to Bolden, but it doesn't seem like it's just punt return. And I know, Homer, that's mad in you, but like, across the board, aside from Will Stone booting it out the end zone, which whatever.
They almost punt blocked us.
They did. That was deflected. Yeah. Like, what do you think might be contributing to special teams being off a tick? Because we hear Sark talk about the depth that we have on this team is as good as we've ever had. He uses that depth on special teams. Special teams has gone down a tick. Like, what do you see?
I don't know what the practice periods look like. I can only speak to UNLV. I know special teams had a ton of practice periods. Like, it was everyday focus, right? It may have more periods in the offense or defense. Like, it's a real thing, right? And so It could become because we got a defensive-minded head coach who really loves field position and all that plays a factor into it. But maybe the practice period has been more focused on offense and defense. And maybe you see such an uptick in offense and defense that maybe they're getting more attention during practice and special teams. Like, all right, you got a 15-minute period. Let's kind of get through it and move on to the next, right? I don't know if it's much attention to detail, maybe in practice to it. And that could be the issue. I don't know if you see a ton of starters on there. You see a lot of backups on there too. And normally you see a lot of guys who play a lot on special teams. But they're your playmakers. I think special teams mean playmakers too, even in the front line trying to block the ball. So,
well, I feel like last year you would be like Jelani McDonald, right? And
right.
you wouldn't see and you wouldn't see the field. So really, your way to pop would be special teams. But now we're playing so much depth. Everyone gets to play. So it's almost like you don't even need to show yourself on special teams because you're second string safety and you're still going to get 20 reps. So there's also kind of that thing too, where like it's not a proving grounds anymore because we're playing everybody.
Right. Yeah, you got to earn special team reps. You should have to earn special team reps too. But maybe it's just not attention to detail. I'm sure that's something when they do a self-scout this bye week, that's something they'll probably cover and go over.
You know what's funny is you do mention like this is where players prove themselves. They still do have that. Like Colton Vasek has done great on special teams.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Future
through
pro.
more. Like Michael Taff is still on a bunch of different special teams, and Gilbo is too. Barron is too. Like, but at the same time, yeah, it seems like it's taken a small step back.
Well, kick coverage, everything we're kicking now is like touchbacks. It used to be we would pin you on the 5 and tackle you, and we would take away 15 yards of field position. Now we're kicking it out. So I'm not seeing us spot the ball at the 5 on kickoffs. I'm not seeing us do punt returns. I'm not seeing us get punt blocks. So it's like all of that kind of holistically, we're just not seeing the splash plays.
I do think Stone has tried to do some pop them on like the 1 or 2, but you can just fair catch now. And I think more teams, even though we're sensing a downtick, teams respect. And I wrote about this last week. Like, why aren't teams returning it? It's just like, well, yeah, Stone's kicking it out of the end zone, but at the same time, maybe teams just don't want to test Texas. And I mean, his touchback rate is way up compared to the last 2 years.
Yeah, but I don't like touchbacks. I'd rather pin you at the 10 like we were doing last year. That's what I thought was so awesome on our kickoffs. We were hitting it to the 10 and we would just dive on everybody and we would take 10 yards of field position. And so that's the difference too, is I don't think we're being as aggressive there. And I don't know why that is. But I don't know. Make sure to like the video. Another ghost comment. Who could that have been? Who wrote such a thing? Make sure to like the video. All right, guys, we are going to talk. You know, I couldn't even look myself in the mirror this morning. To be a fan of a number 2 team is disgusting, you know. And I've been grown accustomed to a certain way of life as a number 1 team fan, and that was taken from me. That was incredibly sad. So, of course, AP poll. Well, coaches poll still likes us because they're old school. They're like, you got to lose the spot. But here's a AP top 25. Alabama takes Texas. We said the week coming up to a couple conversations I had with several people was like, yeah, whoever wins this one, let them have number 1. That's if we don't factor in preseason, which we shouldn't. If we're just looking at resumes here, Alabama has the best win in the country. Let them be number 1. I'm all good with that. My question is, we play Georgia in a couple weeks. If we beat Georgia by that bigger margin, does that mean Texas is number 1? But also, Bama's going to play Tennessee, right? So if they win that, they still get to stay because they beat Georgia and Tennessee. But what do you guys kind of feel about Texas losing that number 1 spot?
I felt it would maybe happen just because of the hype of the Georgia-Alabama game. And you know how that goes.
And that was an incredible game, man. Like
it was, but and I'll go back to this. Like I know it's week 4, week 5 just finished. It doesn't matter as much because we're gonna get our opportunity to get it right back. Right, you know what I mean, right? Unless the Alabama Tennessee game has more hype and Alabama wins that one, maybe they stay at number 1. Who knows?
I think they would have to at that point.
Yeah, I figured it would happen just because of the hype of the game and the 2 logos that were playing. You know what I mean?
And the pure excitement, the ending of that game. I don't blame them, man. I would, and like I said, I was even before the week. Now, of course, when they actually did do the switch, I'm mad. But before, when my logic worked, I was like, yeah, whoever wins that game, it makes sense. Yep, here we go. Yeah, I'm of the Ricky Bobby philosophy as well. Did the 2020 Sark offense under Bana have the clap false start mistake? Sorry, I'm coming behind.
I'm looking right now. Leatherwood had 9 penalties. Deontay Brown, left guard, had 5. Evan Neal had 4.
I don't know what that means out of context. I'd have to see what the other guys got.
That's also the COVID year, so that actually that makes a big impact because you're going to Auburn with 10,000 people instead of 80. So
we got this fan. He doesn't really know football, but he says there's an edge that comes with being number 2. The time couldn't be better. As a second string left tackle in high school, Drew, I can tell you being number 1 feels a lot better. Even though, Drew, I think he got to be number 1 at some point. I can't really nail it down. But, yeah, I agree, Drew. It helps. And to know, I think the Alabama boogeyman is cool. So, like, you have this number 1 that we don't get to play except for the conference game. Kind of gives you this ideal of, like, we're working towards something. There's this good team out there that we haven't got to see. I like it. And so thank you, Drew, for that.
Yeah, I think Drew was on a team that was chasing a number 1 team all year, knowing that at the end of the year we want to meet these guys. So maybe so.
Yeah, and it's funny, like Drew, they'll say we don't care about rankings, but you watch that documentary when y'all won the championship, and y'all very much cared about rankings. y'all were after them. For that
you can use it for motivation, but that it more than applied on Drew's team. I don't know if this Texas team needs that type of motivation. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but
doesn't hurt.
Not right now, not on September 30th. The other thing is, and I think Sark probably thinks the same way. Like, he's like, I don't care about the rankings. Like, it's cool. Yay, we get it. But he said they don't. Now, what I'm curious about is, now that the AP poll doesn't matter, coaches poll doesn't matter, at least as far as, seeding. Yeah. I know people try to like hand wave the CFP weekly rankings, but like you learn about what they're looking for from those reveals. So that's what I'm waiting on when my Tuesday nights get taken up by retired general talking about, oh, we thought they had game control, and it's whatever.
Nonsense, antiquated. Yeah. The eye test, that's a tough team. It's like, how you are they a 3 on the toughness scale? How are we quantifying toughness, guys? That's gonna be interesting. Joe, did you put it out yet? Your list? Your SEC list?
Yeah.
Did you leave Texas at number 1?
I did leave Texas at number 1.
Unbiased. That's another unbiased take. Really appreciate that.
One of the things I kind of have a rotation of Sunday podcasts that I listen to. Like I do, what's it called? I do our post game show. I do a couple more, and I heard a good point that Alabama pulled out all the stops to go up big in the first half on offense and defense, and those stops lasted just long enough for them to win the game. And while hey, if you're pulling out those stops and one of those is Ryan Williams and Jalen Milroe, like, yeah, you're good. Like, you've got a good team. But at the same time, like I think a more consistent effort from a Texas team is better than a more consistent effort from an Alabama team, even right now. And so I kept them up top. And it's also the Inside Texas SEC power rankings. So.
I was going to say, that'd be a little bit of a factor there. But I agree. You can make the argument. And I think, did Alabama unload the clip with that shock and awe campaign? What does that mean for Tennessee? What does that mean for Texas if we play them in a conference championship? It felt like they were like, we're going to show everyone what we can do and surprise them with Georgia. And they hit Georgia in the mouth. But Georgia also could have won that game if Ryan Williams didn't go Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Is there anything else in the top 25 you guys thought was interesting? I'll pull it up so we can actually know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what Coach is going to say. 25.
I'm trying to think of how far Ole Miss dropped. I think Kentucky deserves a lot of credit because they just took the air out of the ball.
They
And
did.
that's kind of how I wrote about it. It's like
Yeah.
Ole Miss leads the country in plays of 10 yards or more. And once you get to like 20, 30, they're still up near the top. And they had 99 plays of 10 yards or more, but they only had the ball for 20 minutes. Their opportunity to do that was almost non-existent. And then they couldn't really run the ball. And then the kicker obviously did what he did, like missed it terribly. Barian Brown, that's why you recruit good players. Like Ole Miss, we may have just found a formula for Ole Miss, and honestly, the formula for that probably looks similar to what Kentucky's going to try to do to Texas. Like say, hey,
that's what
try
Mississippi
to
tried
pass
to
on
do.
us, try to run on us, and if we get the ball, we are going to play keep away.
Yep.
Yeah, Mississippi State kind of tried it,
Yes.
And so that's what's going to be interesting. And also, I think should also let you know, quit scheduling those weak non-cons. They don't do anything but pad stats. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. Furman and stuff like that. I get it that there's a charity element here, and we're helping programs by giving them $1 million. But it doesn't. I don't think you should, in your record. This is a take. I don't think it should be. Those wins should be included in a record.
I think to that point, like when the NCAA does the bowl eligibility dance, you can only count one FCS win. So if you go 6-6, but you're 4-6 against FBS teams, I this may be wrong. I think they only count one of those wins. And as weird as this sounds, yeah, there is a charity aspect. And Jimbo Fisher made this argument a while ago. He said, like, the SEC school plays the SoCon school. The SoCon school plays the D2 school. It is trickle down economics in its purest form.
Yeah.
But I would prefer, and I think Texas prefers for that trickle down to be programs like ULM and Louisiana Tech and not Abilene Christian.
Yeah. And UTSA, so we can keep the money in the family.
Keep the money in the family. I like that.
Yeah.
That number 25 team, man, I think it should be a little higher. Well, ranked in the AP poll for the first time, but hey,
that's impressive, though. I mean, you have two really awesome coordinators at that school, and they tied with A&M technically, right? But they still got the 25th.
Yeah,
which I think is funny.
Look at that fourth row. Iowa State, BYU, Utah, OU, K-State. Like, there's a lot of teams that in the Big 12 competing for a playoff spot right there. And I think Utah, I saw somebody make this point, and it's very true. Like, Utah is unserious if they don't play Cam Rising as a playoff contender.
Yeah. And it's but it is also interesting. The Big 12 doesn't get any representation until the fourth row, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy too. I mean, the parity in that league's gonna be fun. It's weird watching Big 12 now and not scouting.
It is.
Like I'm watching them and I'll be like, man, Oklahoma State's got it. I'm like, oh, I don't care. So it's like, it's interesting. It's weird. It's like seeing an X at the mall. It's it's interesting.
Let me bring up the schedule. I know we're kind of looking ahead, but who does Ohio State have this week?
No idea.
Come on. Oh, they have Iowa. So that'll be
interesting.
Be interesting. I think Tennessee has Arkansas. That'll be an interesting one. And Georgia has Auburn. So we may not see much movement at the top this upcoming week.
What do y'all think about the back out of Boise State? And if he played a Power 5 schedule, would we be talking about him the same way? Because I haven't watched him. He could just be that special.
No. He is athletic. Like, he's not just like going 3.5 yards a carry. He's busting like 60-yard runs.
Yeah. And he did against Oregon too. I mean, no, he's the real deal. I don't see him up close and personal, and he's hard to bring down. He's short, squatty dude, man. Got great balance. He just bounces off people. He's strong.
He should finish third in the Heisman.
Man, he's legit.
Cool. I need to watch him. because that was just my thing. Because I saw he leads the nation in like yards, touchdowns, multi-purpose, like everything. And I was wondering if that's just because he's bullying guys he's better than, or if he's the real thing.
It's bye week content, but I was kind of thinking like there's a good chance that Texas could be the 1 seed, or they could be the 5 seed.
Yeah.
Just depending on if they make the SEC title game, I feel like those are the 2 options, 1 or 5.
Right.
So if you're the 5, you may want to kind of keep an eye on who the good group of 5 teams are, and maybe that's something I explore during the bye. But, if you look at that top 25, Boise State's up there, UNLV, they're up there.
That'd be a good match.
Army's pretty quality. Imagine having to play a triple option team.
I would hate that.
I hate that. Is hard to prepare for in a week. Or
especially like I remember there's stories like Gary Patterson would always start training camp on defense, being like, this is how you defend the option, because he believed like everything else kind of built out from there. Like the RPO is just a triple option with a forward pass.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if I can drill this down in them, then they'll understand it. If you're Texas, maybe you don't have that similar philosophy, but like you're probably wasting time if you're like, okay, here's how to defend the triple, if you're doing that on the first day or so of camp. So,
but I feel like it teaches you for fun. If I was taking a college class, that's where you would start, because that's the heart of football. Like that's optionality, running. Like just for practical things, you don't teach the triple option. But if you really want to understand like football at its core, what is football, start with the triple option.
Yeah. I mean, the only team that I know, obviously, if you have one of those teams on your schedule, and now every American Athletic Conference team, I think, plays them. But like Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman probably does that every year, because they play Navy literally every year.
Yeah.
And I would be surprised if like Texas just hadn't thought about the triple option. But there are a lot of weeks in between now and then for both Texas and for the troops.
And we got one from Sugar Daddy. This would be a good one to end on. Auburn is cheeks, and OU barely got out of there with a win. Texas unhappy with a 22-point win. Tells you about where the programs are at. Thoughts? So I just watched, intensely the Auburn OU game. And Auburn's like the 86th ranked offense in the country. They're not very good, and they did fine against the OU defense. And if Peyton Thorne understood that linebackers will drop into your RPO lanes. He threw that interception 3 times, by the way. It was just the 3rd time he caught it. But there were 3 separate times. And this is Venables for you, right? So on that interception, he's going cover 0. Everyone's blitzing. He's forcing the quarterback to hit the slot quickly, and he drops out and gets it. Venables can dictate what quarterbacks do, and that's why he's a scary defensive coordinator. He's not reacting to the offense doing something. He's making the offense react to him. Mm-hmm. And that's a different way of thinking about defensive football. And so that was impressive, but Auburn's not a special offense. And like I said, the OU defense, you can pass on them. So let them send the blitz. It's going to lock them into man. Kenny Walker, go deep on him.
Yeah.
There's – as long as Quinn can complete those deep balls, which he's not great at, you can beat OU through the air. Their run defense is the real deal, though.
That is.
I think, again, if you go and check their stuff out on Sooner Scoop, like the reaction to being a 4-1 team that's 1-1 in conference, you can obviously everything has context, but like they're a 4-1 team that's 1-1 in conference, and it's like the sky is being held up by 2 hands.
Yeah.
It's like in Majora's Mask where the Titans are holding the moon up. It's like, we only have so much time.
Well, Hawkins too, like he's not quarterbacking yet. He's literally going to one read. It's not open because the receivers are hurt. I mean, and their concepts suck. I remember watching Joe Klatt talk about how that offense is bad, and I hadn't really watched it. That offensive coordinating is awful. These are high school run to the sticks, sit down. I mean, It's awful. And they don't have the wide receivers anyways. So Hawkins is only able to look at one read, surprise, it's covered, and then he's going to run.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of quarterbacking going on there. And it's not pure. I like Hawkins. I think check back with Hawkins in 2 years. But, man, they got to fire the offensive coordinator there, because that is bad stuff.
Latrell is running the Briles offense, even though he's an air raid guy. Like
it don't make sense.
It's bad, man. It's just really bad. Like there's nothing. I can't get on the quarterbacks when that's what they're being given, especially they have no wide receivers. But I do think it's a good point that we're unhappy with a 22-point win, first SEC win.
Yeah, definitely. Gives the coaches something to coach about during this bye week. I love it. This is time to really get on the guys. You have to make them look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, we got a lot of things to fix. I know you're reading press clippings, you're number 2, whatever. It doesn't matter. To me, you haven't played good enough, right? And so this week, Sark should have a lot of fun coaching, him and the entire staff.
Yeah, we need to have a bye and OU. I think this is a great reality check. And it's quote-unquote the worst SEC team, which it is statistically, but awesome. That's what you want. And you don't want OU losing this week to Auburn either, because that gives them a bunch of fire. So I want OU kind of fat and happy. And I want us, feeling like, man, we might even be the number 5 team in the nation. Like that kind of, we're in a different tier. We're lucky, but we're already going to be spoiled. You can already tell how it took 5 games of us being good, and we're already like with the Bama standards. I love
champagne problems.
Exactly. It's good to be on top, fellas. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Hour 6. We went a little over. Good stuff. Tomorrow it'll be Paul and myself. We are going to talk through his postmortems, what he saw in the Mississippi State game. And then, like I said, we're going to squeeze all the juice out of the OU berry. And so we're going to start talking OU for basically 2 weeks. So you guys are going to know this team backwards and forwards by the time it's game time. Joe, Coach, fans, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Monday.